SpaceX is praised as the largest innovator in today's spaceflight. Starship Flight 12 will have to prove this once more. The question is just when it is going to launch, and one important piece of information was just added to the mix. NASA is ditching the ISS. Does this mean that we'll lose our beloved space station, or are there realistic alternatives? We take a close look. Is low Earth orbit dead? My name is Felix, welcome to What About It, let's dive right in. Starship updates. What a week! NASA is readying SLS for Artemis 2 and SpaceX seems to finally be ready for Flight 12 testing. And here's some proof up front. Jordan went out to Starbase in the middle of the night on Monday, January 19th to capture this. It's SpaceX's Booster Cryo Stand rolling from the Massey test site to the production site where SpaceX builds its prototypes. Repaired after the Booster 18 rupture and fully ready for a booster cryo test, it made its way to the mega base. There can only be one reason for this. Booster 18 will be lifted on top and rolled to the Massey test site. We've been anticipating this move for a week or two now. After what happened to Booster 18 on November 21st, 2025, all eyes are now on the second version 3 Super Heavy booster to do things better. This new year must go differently for SpaceX's Starship, or the Artemis timeline, which NASA is building on, will see large delays for Artemis 3 and SpaceX's HLS Starship. And why is that? Isn't the lunar Starship a different thing altogether? True, but if SpaceX doesn't have a reliable Starship version 3, they can't run orbital refueling tests, which in turn are essential for the lunar Starship. That's the problem. Version 3 must continue, or everything based on it will be stalled further. We've seen images of SpaceX's Booster 19 directly from SpaceX. First from Elon Musk on December 24th, which was almost exactly 1 month ago. Then again during the recent visit of Secretary Pete Hegseth on January 12th as part of his Arsenal of Freedom tour. It looks more than ready. The reason it has not seen any cryo tests yet is likely due to 3 factors. Number 1 is the test site itself. Everything needed to be ready, and SpaceX was still rebuilding the test site after the Booster 18 rupture and, even more destructive, the Ship 36 explosion before that. Number 2 is that SpaceX changed its behavior with COPVs after those 2 prototype failures. All COPVs you see here on Booster 19 were pre-tested in a special test stand just for COPVs at the Massey test site. Play it safe. Number 3 is that SpaceX wasn't done building the booster. Even though there are no visible differences on the outside from December 24th to January 12th, lots of things have likely changed on the inside. The booster test stand's move to the production site was a clear sign that SpaceX was ready for some testing action. So far, we haven't seen a move yet. This could be connected to B18.3, which I'll talk about in a second. Every change you see in version 3 is knowledge gained from the 2025 version 2 flights. The engine section is completely different. Raptor 3 instead of Raptor 2. A completely changed manifold for commodities, electrical and data lines. Completely redesigned internals. When I first saw Booster 18 blasted open by the rupture, I was stunned. We all knew that version 3 would be the next step, but this? It wasn't even comparable to version 2. It's almost like looking at 2 completely different rockets on the inside. The header tanks needed for a return are wildly different. On version 2, the oxygen header tank was integrated into the downcomer. On version 3, it's this spider-like contraption and it's off-center. The downcomer is so massive in volume that it also serves as the methane header tank. Then there is the top. Everything is different compared to the version 2 booster generation. The old booster generation had 4 grid fins and no integrated hot staging ring. The new one looks strange at first. 3 grid fins. Born out of the idea of having the new generation of boosters glide even more on their return trajectory after separation, a 4th grid fin wouldn't have had much authority. It would be in the turbulent wake of the massive booster as it falls through the atmosphere. So, out you go. No more 4th grid fin. Then there's the integrated hot staging ring. Born as a hotfix. No pun intended, hot staging was an afterthought on the old design. Now it is not anymore. It's here to stay and fully integrated into the design. No more hot stage ring separation. It's coming down with the booster, no part wasted. I could go on for a bit longer. It is wild to see how much SpaceX changed. But it's also part of the iterative design approach. I've been saying this for years. If you build something radically new, like Starship, you first have to figure out how to build it. That's the very reason so many still have trouble understanding SpaceX's fail, fix, repeat approach. A great example of this iterative process occurred on Wednesday night. One of the test tanks currently at Massey's is B-18.3. It's comprised of a fake ship aft section, an integrated hot staging ring, a forward dome, a methane tank, a common dome, and a skirt under it mimicking a booster LOX tank. On the night from Tuesday to Wednesday, it underwent another stress test. For these tests, SpaceX fills the one methane tank with cryogenic liquid, nitrogen in this case, to not risk an explosion. Then the tie rods attached to the base and the cap on top are used to squeeze the whole contraction. Like this. The goal? To find weaknesses in the structure under flight-like conditions, and that night they did. Jordan was out in the middle of the night again. Give him a follow on X at JordanGuidry6 to be in the loop as soon as something like this happens. His images show that the tank ruptured under the common dome, right where the autogenous pressurization lines go through the hull and into the fake section of the lower oxygen tank. Right where the autogenous line LOX diffuser is normally sitting. That part wasn't pressurized on B-18.3, so it doesn't reflect flight-like conditions as that part would be pressurized during flight and on a real version 3 booster. What does this mean? On the one hand, it means the failure occurred in a section that does not represent flight-like conditions. It's fake. On the other hand, it shows that the hot staging ring, which B-18.3 mainly focuses on in its tests, did not fail even when the hull buckled. It's simply unclear if this test was to failure, but it does look like that it happened toward the maximum stress part of the test. These tests regularly exceed flight pressure and also safety margins. The reason for this is simple. SpaceX wants to find the limit, and that limit is found when something fails. The two big questions are now if this was a test to failure and if the resulting damage will impact Super Heavy version 3 designs. As said, this lower part of the test tank is fake. It is not what you'd find on a real booster, as there, this part would be pressurized, which greatly increases structural strength in return. We'll have to wait for a comment from SpaceX to know for sure. Sometimes a clean solution like version 3 Starships is the best option. As you know, we are very much into science and very aware of microplastic and PFAs found in bottled water.
More than 90% of some of the most popular bottled water brands contain tiny plastic particles.
Possible harm includes brain development, immunity and growth problems in children, and fertility issues and hormone disruption in adults. But there are also cost and comfort. We are using around 18 liters per day, 540 liters per month, costing us around $250 for 28 5-gallon water jugs. That's like $3,000 per year just for water. I'm happy that there is a perfect solution: ColdPure. Its 4-stage reverse osmosis system removes up to 99% of harmful contaminants. Technology similar to that on the ISS at just $50 every 3 to 6 months for a new set of filters. ColdPure makes it so easy to get pure water with the push of a button. So this year, make a New Year's resolution that sticks. Improve your health with clean water. Right now, you can get $200 off for a limited time if you use my link coldpure.com/whataboutit to start this new year right. There's also more good news. As mentioned in the last episode, the ship's static fire stand was also rolled to the production site. Now, SpaceX has installed both aft flaps in recent days as well. Expect a Ship 39 rollout soon. Then both prototypes would be in active testing, and we can start drawing a Flight 12 timeline. Pad 2 is undoubtedly almost ready. I expect no delays here. Once both ships and booster have done their cryo tests, they'll roll back to the production site for checks and engine installation. 39 Raptor 3 engines will be mounted inside the engine sections of both, and then it is getting fiery again at Starbase. I'm sure you see it the way I do. It's about time. Usually there is around 1 month between the first cryo tests and a possible launch. So I place Flight 12 at the end of February right now. This should give SpaceX enough time to finish Pad 2 as well. Wrap everything up and do some ground support equipment tests, then roll the booster to the pad for a static fire and the ship to Massey's for the same. Then come the final checks, and then we're making history happen once again. I expect Flight 12 to look very similar to Flight 11 because of the radical redesign from version 2 to 3. SpaceX will likely launch it, separate the booster, and bring it back down without a catch. Catching it could simply be too risky on the first booster of a new generation, but SpaceX might see it differently. I'm thinking soft landing in the Gulf for this first one. Ship 39 will hopefully continue to space, do a payload test deployment, rotate around, do a relight test with the brand new Raptor 3 engines under its skirt, and then face the fire test. Re-entry and splashdown in the Indian Ocean. While all this has happened before, Flight 12 will be a very important flight. New booster, new ship, new pad. Everything is untested and everything prone to having problems. It'll be undoubtedly interesting to see how they hold up. What do you think? Is there still a chance for a launch in February? Let's see some estimates in the comments below who will get it right. If you want to help us make even better content and fly more often in a helicopter, hit the subscribe button to stay informed. Like this video if it brought you value and become a wise supporter for those extra heli flights. Be our fuel, chat with me and gain more insights into the topic you love. Thank you very much. So what if Starship version 3 works as planned? What's it even good for besides Starlink satellites? I hear this question very often. What payloads will it send to space besides a Mars colony or efforts on the moon? For more than 20 years now, humanity has had a permanent home in space, and we have gotten used to it. Every 90 minutes, the International Space Station passes overhead, carrying astronauts from around the world. Since the year 2000, people have lived and worked there continuously, running experiments, learning how the human body survives in microgravity, and quietly proving that long-term life in orbit is possible. But that era is ending. By the end of this decade, the International Space Station is expected to be retired. Its structure is aging, maintenance is becoming harder, and keeping it operational forever simply isn't possible. One thing's already quite clear. What replaces it won't be one station, and it won't be run the same way. Instead, the future of low Earth orbit is being built by private companies working alongside space agencies but following very different rules. Over the next 10 years, several new space stations are expected to reach orbit. They won't all look alike, and they won't all serve the same purpose. So what will replace the ISS, and what will they be used for? To understand why this moment matters so much, it helps to think of the ISS not just as a spacecraft, but as an era. The International Space Station emerged from the post-Cold War world.
It was really the handshake which symbolized potential lessening of tension.
It was a symbol of cooperation, a shared laboratory in orbit, and a place where governments, not companies, set the rules. It was never designed to make money. Its purpose was simpler and harder: to teach us how to live in space. And that lesson has largely been learned. The ISS has served its purpose well. Today's spaceflight world is different. Launch costs, for example, are far lower than they were when the ISS was built. Private spacecraft fly to orbit routinely. Access to space is no longer limited to a handful of superpowers. Once that happened, a government monopoly in orbit was never going to last. The question is no longer just how to survive in space, it's how to use it. That shift explains why the next generation of space stations looks so different from the ISS. They're designed around customers, not committees, and built with the assumption that space is becoming an economy, not just a government-subsidized research outpost. A few companies are actively working on orbital outposts for the near future. One company is planning to literally build off the ISS, Axiom Space. Axiom's approach is cautious and deliberate. Instead of launching an entirely new station all at once, the company plans to grow its station directly from the ISS itself. The first Axiom module is scheduled to attach to the existing station later this decade, with more modules added over time. For a while, Axiom's station will literally be a space station within a space station. This approach has good reasons. First of all, the ISS serves as a fixed anchor point in orbit. It allows operations to start before the new station is fully functional on its own. It also allows for continuity. The first module, PPTM, has a right-sized hatch to attach to the ISS. Once installed, it effectively becomes a part of the station sharing the atmosphere. Astronauts can move freely between the ISS and the Axiom Station module, and it features a storage rack system fully compatible with those on the ISS. This allows the transfer of entire science racks. Long-term experiments can continue on Axiom Station and scientific equipment can be saved for future use. The alternative would be to abandon most of the equipment when the ISS reaches the end of its life and burns up in the atmosphere. Habitat modules and airlocks will be the next additions to the growing station. Finally, the RMF module for research and manufacturing will be added. It also features its own version of the famous cupola that ISS personnel love so much. This is where humans can observe our beautiful planet below. When the ISS enters its final stage of useful life, the Axiom modules, now forming their own space station, will detach and continue flying independently. In many ways, this is the least disruptive future. Inside Axiom Station, astronauts will live and work much as they do today, conducting research, hosting visiting crews, and supporting long-duration missions. The difference is ownership. Axiom Station is commercial. Governments can rent space, companies can rent space, even private individuals can buy missions if they can afford it. It's designed to be flexible, adaptable, and profitable while still meeting the strict standards required for human spaceflight. That makes Axiom the most direct successor to the ISS, but with a new approach. Not every company is taking the evolutionary path Axiom follows, though. Orbital Reef, led by Blue Origin and including partners such as Sierra Space, represents a different approach. It's often described as a business park in space, and that phrase captures its core idea. Orbital Reef isn't built around a single mission. Instead, it's designed to host many activities at once. Scientific research, manufacturing, tourism, media projects, and commercial development are all operating side by side. The vision behind Orbital Reef is that low Earth orbit doesn't need just one replacement for the ISS. It needs an ecosystem. The project has experienced some issues, and Orbital Reef's timeline has shifted as many large aerospace projects do. But its importance isn't tied to exact launch dates. It represents a declaration that space can become infrastructure, not just a laboratory. While Axiom's modules look familiar, basically a sophisticated tin can similar to today's ISS modules, Sierra Space has something new in mind. This is Life, an inflatable space station module. By now it is long past being a thought experiment. It is in active testing and the results are looking very positive. The idea behind it is simple and brilliant. If you launch deflated and inflate in space, you gain more habitable volume in a single launch. Sierra claims it can deploy 1/3 of the ISS's volume in a single launch, and not with a Starship. It does come with a downside though. While rigid modular systems allow outfitting the entire interior and launch in an operational state, Life modules need to be outfitted in orbit. While Orbital Reef is aiming big, another company is putting its money on deployment speed. Meet VAST. That's a relatively new name in the space industry, but their strategy is aggressive. Their first station, Haven 1, is designed to be small, simple, and launched quickly. Instead of assembling a complex structure over many years, VAST wants to place a single module in orbit that can host short missions with a small crew. Haven 1 obviously isn't meant to replace the ISS. It's meant to prove a point, that commercial space stations can be built quickly, affordable, and operated reliably. The small station is 10 meters tall and 4.4 meters in diameter with a habitable volume of 45 cubic meters. That is comparable to a small tour bus. Crews would stay for days or weeks, conduct experiments, and return to Earth more like the early space stations of the 1970s and 80s than the ISS. What makes VAST especially interesting is what comes next. Haven 1 is only the beginning. The company has openly discussed future stations with multiple modules and even rotating sections designed to create artificial gravity. That sounds interesting. VAST isn't just building a space station. They are trying to solve a huge problem in human space exploration: the effects a human body suffers after months without gravity. Their answer? Build a station that spins to create artificial gravity. That idea has existed in science fiction for decades. VAST is now treating it as an engineering problem. Imagine how different life in space would feel if you were not forced to live in microgravity all the time. It's not healthy. It would help solve a lot of problems astronauts face today, from sleep problems to muscle and bone decay. Whether or not that goal is reached, the message is clear. Space stations no longer need to be massive to be useful. Smaller platforms can serve specific markets and grow over time. Access to orbit is easier and cheaper than ever before, and small, dedicated space stations might become a valuable alternative to ISS-sized space laboratories. And VAST is not alone in this field. Another contender that is focusing on smaller stations is Starlab. Developed by Voyager Space in partnership with Airbus, Starlab takes a similar approach to Haven 1. Instead of launching many modules and assembling them in orbit, Starlab is designed to launch largely completed in 1 or 2 missions. If it works, a Starlab becomes operational almost overnight. If it fails, years of work and expensive hardware disappear in minutes. That risk is the trade-off for anyone trying something new. But it reflects a broader shift in spaceflight. As rockets become more powerful, building large structures in orbit is no longer the only option. Assembly is giving way to deployment. Starlab is focused heavily on research and commercial science, offering a modern, streamlined platform for long-duration missions with a steady crew presence. These are all very interesting concepts, but when can we expect to see them become a reality? As with all large space projects, it's wise to take these dates with a grain of salt. The new space station era is set to start in the second quarter of this year. VAST will start by deploying Haven 1. Things are picking up in 2027. Both Axiom Station and Orbital Reef plan to launch their first module that year. Axiom Station could detach from the ISS to become an independent station as early as 2028. In the same year, VAST plans to start building its second, larger Haven 2 station. It's planned to be joined in orbit by Starlab's inaugural module. Starlab is slated to become operational the following year in 2029. Both Axiom Station and Orbital Reef aim to become fully operational in 2030. The same year could see Haven 2 go online in a 4-module configuration. The full 9-module configuration is projected to be finished in 2032. Finally, in 2035, just 9 years from now, VAST plans to become the pioneer of artificial gravity stations. This is one crazy timeline, and you can still expect to see a lot of shifts in the coming years. But it shows that the era of commercial space stations is already starting. There are milestones every year. One thing is clear though, not all future stations are commercial. Thank you so much for watching, thanks for being our rocket fuel, we're all in this mission together. And that's it for today. Smash the like button, subscribe for more, this is what fuels the algorithm, and this is how you can help us for free. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nerd store, our brand new Raptor emblem design, and countless others are there for you to explore. Click the card or the US or worldwide link in the description. And if you want to know how SpaceX managed to build Raptor 3, the new Starship powerhouse, and what makes it special, watch this video next to continue your journey. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode. Alright, that's it. Thank you.